Hi everyone, I'm Andy, and this is the AI Breakdown. Welcome to your weekly news edition, where I'll cover what happened in AI last week, why it matters, all in about 10 minutes. Alright, let's do the weekly scan. And honestly, this week had a really clear theme. AI is getting embedded as the thing that actually runs parts of revenue, workflow, and infrastructure. First up, Salesforce is buying Qualified, a San Francisco startup that does what they call agentic marketing. The headline product is an AI agent called Piper. And Piper's job is wonderfully unglamorous. It sits on your website and talks to inbound visitors over text, voice, even video, answers questions, figures out intent, nurtures the lead, and then books meetings for your sales reps. Salesforce says it'll fold this into Agentforce so customers can deploy always-on agents for pipeline generation. The deal's meant to close by early 2026, and it's a pretty tidy fit because Qualified was already a Salesforce Ventures portfolio company and an App Exchange partner. So this isn't some random bolt-on from left field. SaaSta's Jason Lemkin called it the smartest AI GTM deal we've seen so far in 2025, and he's not exactly known for underreacting. He even said that in his own organization, combining Qualified's AI SDR with Agentforce had already booked 100 plus meetings and over $1 million in closed deals in a few months. And Salesforce's own Steve Fisher put it in peak corporate speak. The agentification of the enterprise continues to accelerate, but translate that into English and it's, your top of funnel is getting automated and revenue teams might scale without scaling headcount at the same rate. If you're a SaaS founder, this is the direction of travel, AI that touches pipeline and pays for itself. Next up, Lovable. The Swedish vibe coding startup just raised $330 million at a $6.6 billion valuation. That's more than triple in 5 months. Lovable lets non-programmers build web apps and websites using natural language prompts just by speaking. It's a fast-growing and super interesting trend that I've previously covered on the podcast, with Lovable being the poster child for this movement. The growth numbers are the bit that makes you sit up. They hit 100 million ARR within 8 months of launch, and then cleared 200 million ARR just 4 months later. And they're not just a toy. Over 25 million projects have been built on the platform, and customers include Uber, Klarna, Zendesk, and Deutsche Telekom. Whilst I still don't believe vibe coding tools like this are ready or safe for serious production systems, they can make a meaningful difference, contributing to the product development process. For example, they have referenced one case study with a global ride-sharing platform, most likely Uber, that cut a design testing cycle from 6 weeks to 5 days using Lovable. Investors are framing this as a fundamental shift. Menlo's Matt Murphy said, Lovable has done what was previously unimaginable by turning a latent market of tens of millions of people into web developers and content creators. Capital G's Lael Sturdy said, demand from Fortune 500 companies signals a real shift in how software gets built. My take on this is, the valuation assumes Lovable becomes a proper platform. Integrations, hosting, databases, reliability. That's the hard bit. But the direction is clear. Developer shortage is turning into builder abundance. And if they get this right, it opens the doors for a new age of technology entrepreneurs without the need for real tech skills. All right, partnerships. And there were 2 big ones that I think fit into the same narrative. Everyone's trying to solve the pilot to production problem. First, Cognizant and Microsoft announced an expanded multi-year partnership to help enterprises implement generative AI at scale. They're targeting industries like financial services, healthcare and life sciences, retail and manufacturing, and the focus is very much on embedding Microsoft Copilot and agentic AI into actual workflows. Think claims processing, supply chain tools, that sort of thing. Cognizant's CEO Ravi Kumar said, today, AI underpins and shapes every transformation program we drive and framed the goal as solving the last mile challenge of scaling AI across the enterprise. Microsoft's Judson Althoff said they want to accelerate the creation of industry-specific solutions that are embedded in the flow of work. The bit that stood out is, Cognizant plans to upskill 1,000 plus engineers on Microsoft's AI tech and roll Microsoft's Copilots out internally as well. That's essentially build-in delivery capacity. Second partnership, Tech Mahindra is teaming up with Google Cloud to help enterprises adopt Gemini 2.5 and specifically to build next-generation agentic AI solutions with governance, security, and industry customization baked in. Tech Mahindra's Amol Phadke said enterprises need secure, scalable, and enterprise-ready intelligence as they move from experimentation to transformation. Google's Victor Morales called agentic AI a powerful opportunity to reshape business models. My opinion on both, this is the consulting industrial complex retooling itself around foundation models. And honestly, enterprises want that. Most companies don't need another demo. They need someone to wire this into their data, their compliance, and their messy reality. Two more product stories and then I'll zoom out. Notion quietly dropped one of the most important business metrics in AI this week. They're now over $600 million in annual recurring revenue, and roughly half of that ARR comes from their AI-powered products and features. Notion launched Notion AI in late 2022, weeks before ChatGPT went mainstream, and adoption just kept climbing. It started with 10 to 20% of customers paying for the AI add-on, then 30 to 40%, and now over 50% of Notion customers are paying for AI capabilities. Jason Lemkin's take was, when over half your customers pay for AI, you bundle it into business and enterprise tiers to expand average revenue per user without raising list prices. They're also doing a $300 million employee share sale that values the business at $11 billion post-money, and there's chatter about a potential IPO in 2026. Whether or not that happens, the lesson is clear. AI that's properly embedded in an existing workflow can move revenue in a very real way. And then Zoom rolled out AI Companion 3.0. This is more than meeting summaries now. It's got Help Me Write for drafting documents or emails based on meetings and files, and an AI workbench where you can create custom workflow automations with drag and drop. Zoom's CTO, Suedong Huang, described it as helping people from conversation to completion, and he even called the low-code automation piece like agentic coding, but for everyone. Zoom's doing something smart under the hood too. It uses a federated mix of models, lightweight ones for quick context, and heavier models when needed to keep costs manageable. And they're shipping a lot of this at no extra charge on most paid plans, which tells you how competitive this space has become. Before we wrap, I want to add one more story from Reuters that I think is the reality check sitting underneath all of this. The headline is basically, after the hype, companies are finding AI's return is falling short and they're adjusting expectations. According to Forrester, only about 15% of firms reported any profit margin improvement from AI in the past year, and a BCG study found just 5% saw widespread value from AI initiatives. There are some relatable examples. Klarna, which famously talked about an AI chatbot replacing 700 agents, had to bring back more human support because the bot handled simple queries but struggled with nuance. And Verizon found around 40% of consumers still demand a human for complex problems. Forrester analyst Brian Hopkins said tech firms spun this tale that change would happen quickly, but we humans don't change that fast. And Forrester even forecasts that in 2026, about 25% of planned corporate AI spending will be delayed by at least a year. I actually think this is good news. It means we're moving from hype to craft. The winners will be the teams who pick narrow, high-impact use cases, do the integration work, and keep humans in the loop where it matters, rather than trying to replace entire departments overnight. So if you connect the dots across all of these stories, the picture is pretty simple. AI is becoming less of a novelty and more of an operating layer. Salesforce is buying pipeline automation. Lovable is turning non-coders into builders. Microsoft and Google are leaning on integrators to get AI into real workflows. Notion is proving you can monetize embedded AI at scale. Zoom is trying to turn meetings into actions. And the ROI reality check tells you what matters next. Not who has the fanciest model, but who can ship AI into messy organizations and make it pay. That's all for this week's AI Roundup. If you found value in this breakdown, please leave a rating and hit subscribe. Have a great festive season and catch you next week.